Mr. Liao Fan-Yuan's actual name was Huang Yuan, alias Kun Yi. He was born in Wuqiang County, Jiangsu Province. When he was young, Mr. Yuan married into and lived with the family of his bride by the surname of Shu in Jiashan County, Zhejiang Province. As a result, he was awarded a scholarship by Jiashan County and became a government-supported student in the county. He passed the examination for Jiren in the township in the 4th year of the Longqing period during the Ming Dynasty under Emperor Mu-Zhong. When Mr. Liao Fan was a student, he liked to study everything, whether ancient or modern, whether important or otherwise. He became an expert in astrology, law, irrigation, military affairs, politics and feng shui. Mr. Liao Fan's family was not rich, yet he liked to give alms. He led a thrifty and simple life by chanting Buddhist scriptures and incantations and sitting in meditation every day. No matter how busy his public or private affairs were, he never failed to sit quietly for his meditation sessions every morning and evening. He was 100% a philanthropist.
Good morning, Father.
Good morning, Tianji. Tianji. Go back to the house and study.
All right, Father. I'll go now.
Okay, thank you. Please come again. So, steamboats, come here, come steamboats. Fresh from the steamer. Steamboats. Uncle, how about a few steamboats, just fresh?
It's a small family. Just give me 6.
6 buns! Okay, please wait a minute.
Please come and buy my red.
6 buns. Very soon, they'll be ready.
Give me 2 sesame seeds cakes also. My son likes them.
Okay, please, hold on a minute. Uncle, please hold carefully. 2 sesame cakes also. The price is 8 cents. Thank you. Have a nice day. Yes. Steam buns. Hot steam buns, just fresh. Steam buns. Hot steam buns. Hot steam buns.
Many dumplings available, many things available.
My dear lady, are you all right? Are you sick? What has happened to you?
Not sick. I'm just very, very hungry.
Oh, dear. Why have you left your house before taking your meal?
I've come out to look for some food, because there's nothing left like home.
I have some steamed buns and sesame seed cakes. Please take them and eat. Eat slowly. Don't choke. Eat slowly. Yeah, eat slowly. Old lady, it's getting cold. Take this money and buy some clothes.
You're really a philanthropist. I wish to pay my last respect to you.
No, lady, don't say that. Don't say that. Don't, please. If we don't have compassion for others, then we don't deserve to be humans. Don't. Please eat.
My benefactor, what's your name? I want my descendants to remember your kindness forever.
It is not necessary. Take good care of yourself. That's all I need.
Father?
What are you doing here?
Well, I'm hoping to be placed in the first 5 positions. But my mind's terribly confused. Looks like there's no hope.
You have to be patient. Impatience is not a virtue.
Father, I don't know why my mind can't be calmed down. It looks as if I'm fated not to come out top.
As long as you're willing to study hard and try your best to do good works, you can change your own destiny. It is often said, refraining from all wrongdoing and practicing all forms of kindness brings about a reduction of distress and the coming of fortune. This is the basic principle behind creating one's destiny.
Is it so? But all the people in the temples have said that our fate is predestined. How then can it be changed?
This is merely the viewpoint of ordinary people. No wonder you are confused. Okay. Let me relate my own experience as an example for you, so you may understand it much better. Yes, you will understand. Sit down. My father passed away when I was young, and Mother persuaded me to learn medicine instead of becoming a scholar. In her opinion, learning medicine would be a good way to support myself and to help others. Besides, having a skill, I would never have to worry about making a living, and I could even become famous. According to her, this was my father's wish for me. I listened to Mother and gave up the idea of becoming a government official. Until one day, when I went to the Compassionate Cloud Temple. Good morning, Your Eminence.
Gentlemen, from your facial appearance, you are destined to become a government official. Moreover, you will attain the rank of erudite first-level scholar next year. Why don't you study then?
Oh, this is because my mother said to me. He appeared to me to be a sincere person, so I told him my reason for giving up studies to learn medicine. I also asked him about his life experience.
My last name is Kong. I come from Yunnan province. I have inherited the knowledge of Mr. Kang Xie Shao, who developed the art of prediction very well. By calculations, I am supposed to pass it on to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Master. Thank you, Master. Please follow me. So I invited Mr. Kong to stay in the house and told my mother about him. Please have some tea.
Mrs. Yuan, forgive me for being direct. 5 generations ago, your Yuan family was a flourishing one. Unfortunately, after a disaster in spring 47 years ago, you were the only surviving family member in the whole clan. Moreover, your husband died at a young age.
Mr. Kong, you're really a master fortune teller. Even a disaster a few decades ago cannot escape from your calculation. You're indeed a living immortal.
You flatter me. I only made my conclusions based on the art of prediction. No wonder it is so accurate.
Mr. Kong is such an expert in the art of prediction. Why don't you ask him to help predict your destiny?
Yes, Mother. Believing what Mr. Kong had said, I began to study again to prepare for the examination for erudite first-level scholar. Once again, Mr. Kong made a prediction for me. According to him, as a student, I would place 14th in the county examination, 71st in the regional examination, and 9th in the provincial examination. The following year, at the 3 places of examination, I placed exactly as he predicted. Then I asked Mr. Kong to calculate the predictions for my entire life. The results of his predictions were that I would pass such and such a test in such and such a year, I would become a civil servant in such a year, and in such a year I would receive a promotion. Finally, I would be appointed as a magistrate in Sichuan province. After holding that office for 3.5 years, I would resign and return home. At the age of 53, I would die around 2 o'clock in the morning on August 14th. It was fated that I would not have a son.
Father, aren't these predictions wrong? Now you are over 60 years old, and I'm your own son.
Let me continue. From then on, the outcome of every examination I took turned out exactly as Mr. Kong had predicted. Mr. Kong predicted that I would be promoted only after receiving a salary in the weight of 91 dans and 5 dos of rice. However, I had received only 71 dans of rice when a senior education official recommended me for a promotion. I secretly began to doubt Mr. Kong's predictions. Nevertheless, the prediction turned out to be correct after all, because the recommendation was turned down by his superior. It was not until several years later when Mr. Chiu Min-ying saw my old examination papers and exclaimed that the essays were well written, and it would be a pity to bury the talents of such a great scholar. Mr. Ying wanted their magistrate to issue an official order for me to become a candidate for imperial student under his authority. After undergoing this eventful promotion, my calculations showed that I had received exactly 91 dans and 5 dos of rice. From then on, whether it was promotion, rank, or wealth, I deeply believed that all came about in due time, and that the length of one's life is predestined. I began to view everything in a more detached manner and ceased to seek gain and profit. After being selected as an imperial student, I was to attend a university at Peking. During my year-long stay at the capital, my interest in meditation grew, and I often sat silently without giving rise to a single thought. I lost interest in books and did not study at all. One day I paid a visit to the enlightened Zen master, Au-Yeung, at Chishia Mountain. This visit changed my whole destiny.
Mr. Yuan.
Master.
The reason why ordinary people are unable to attain sagehood is because they have too many wandering and false thoughts running through their minds. In our 3-day meditation, I have not observed the slightest wandering thought arising from you. Why is this so?
Mr. Kong has clearly predicted the entire outcome of my life. The time of life, death, promotion, and failure are all predestined. There is no use or need for me to think about it.
I thought you were someone of remarkable capabilities. Now I realize you are nothing but a common mundane person.
Master, please explain what you meant.
An average person's mind is forever occupied by wandering and imaginary thoughts. So, naturally, his life is bound by the Shi of yin and yang as well as fate. We cannot deny the fact that fate exists, but only ordinary people are bound by it. Fate cannot bind those who cultivate great kindness. This is because their virtues accrued from kind acts are so great that these acts will alter their original destiny for the better. The merits accrued can actually change their destiny from suffering to happiness, poverty to prosperity, and short lives to long lives. Similarly, fate cannot bind who commit great wrongdoing. When a person's bad deeds are so great and powerful, they will cancel out the good fortune and prosperity predetermined in his original fate, and his life can be transformed from good to bad. For the past 20 years, you have lived your life according to Mr. Kong's predictions and did not do a thing to change it. Instead, you became bound by your own fate. If you are not considered an ordinary mortal, then who is?
Can one escape from his fate then?
We create our own fate. Good or bad fortune is also determined by ourselves. When I commit bad deeds, disasters are bound to strike. When I cultivate kindness, good fortune will naturally come my way. It says so in all the great ancient books of wisdom. In the Buddhist teachings it is written that if one wishes for and seeks wealth, position, a son, a daughter, or longevity, one can attain them. One only has to cultivate kind deeds in order to escape the control of fate. Since untruthful speech is one of the greatest offenses in Buddhist teachings, we can be assured that these are not lies. Buddhas and Bodhisattvas certainly have no reasons to deceive us.
But Mencius once said, whatever is sought for can be attained. The seeking is in oneself. This refers to inner qualities such as virtue, kindness, and morality. These are all qualities we can work toward. However, when it comes to outside factors such as wealth, fame, and prestige, how can we seek to attain them? Don't these have to be granted by others?
Mencius was correct, but you misinterpreted his meaning. Au-Yeung, the sixth patriarch of the Zen school, has taught that all the fields of merit are within one's own heart. The outside is merely a reflection of the inside. By seeking within ourselves, we can not only attain the inner qualities of virtue, kindness, and morality, but we can also attain wealth, fame, prestige. These are embodied in one's fate. One will attain them, even without having to seek. Therefore, if one cannot reflect within one's own heart, but instead blindly seek from outside, then this search is in vain. By the way, Mr. Kong has predicted that you will not receive an imperial appointment nor get a son, hasn't he?
Yes, he has.
If this is your fate, then you should reflect on your past deeds. What are your feelings?
Those who receive imperial appointments all have the appearance of good fortune, and I do not. I am very impatient, intolerant, indisciplined, and speak without restraint. I also have a strong sense of pride and arrogance. How is it possible for me to receive an imperial appointment? There is an old saying, life springs from the dirt of the earth, and water too clean often harbors no fish. The first reason why I feel I do not deserve a son is because I am addicted to cleanliness, resulting in the lack of thoughtfulness for others. The second reason is that harmony is the cultivator of all life, but I have a quick temper. The third reason is based on the principle that loving kindness is the basis of reproduction and harshness is the root of sterility. I overly guard my own reputation and cannot sacrifice anything for the sake of others. The fourth reason is that I talk too much, which wastes a lot of chi or energy. The fifth reason is that I also delight in drinking alcohol, and that depletes my spirit. The sixth reason I do not have a son is my habit of staying up nights, not knowing how to conserve my energy.
According to you, then, there are too many things in life you do not deserve. Not only fame and a son. We should know that both good and bad fortune are all formed from one's heart. Whether a person should enjoy fortune or starve to death are only consequences of their own actions and thoughts. The heaven merely leads the happening of events according to the forces of nature and does not impose any interference. This is just like the weight of a person, depends on his own content and not that the balance is being partial. Do you understand? Similarly, bearing children depends on the kind of virtue accumulated by a person. For example, if a person has accumulated enough merit and virtue for 100 generations, then he or she will have descendants to last 100 generations. For those who have no descendants at all, it is because they may have amassed sins instead. Mr. Kong has predicted that you will not receive an imperial appointment or have a son. We can think of these as the results of your past misdeeds, but even that can still be changed. If you can intensify your good deeds by doing more charitable works, then the merits accumulated by you will result in your receiving good reward.
I understood and believed in the Master, and I began to repent of all my past wrongdoings in front of the Buddha image. I wrote down my wish to pass the imperial examinations, and I vowed to complete 3,000 meritorious deeds to show my gratitude towards heaven, earth, and ancestors. Master Yun-gu showed me a chart, and he taught me how to keep a daily record of the kind and evil acts I committed. The kind acts, they were to be recorded at the top portion, and evil acts at the bottom of the chart. He told me that bad deeds could neutralize the merits I accrue from good deeds. The Master also taught me how to recite the Junti mantra.
准提咒，稽首皈依苏续地，头面顶礼七句之。我今称赞大准提， 唯愿慈悲垂加护。
Mantra writing experts once said, "Those who practiced the art but do not know the right way to do it will be laughed at by gods and spirits." The secret behind writing mantras is the absence of thought from start to finish. In the process of writing, one must not give rise to a single improper thought. Even kind thoughts have to be let go of. Only under these circumstances can a mantra be successful. Let's try. When one prays or seeks something in terms of changing fate, it is important that one does it when the mind is still. In this way, wishes will be easily fulfilled. Mencius stated in his principle of forming destiny that there is no difference between longevity and short life. At first glance, one would find this hard to understand. How can longevity and short life be the same? In actuality, when we look within our hearts, we will find no duality, no difference. We should see everything with eyes of equality and live morally regardless of good or bad times. If one can practice accordingly, then one can master the fate of wealth and poverty. Therefore, when we are able to create and form our own destiny, it does not matter whether we are presently rich or poor. Just as a wealthy man should not become callous in his thoughts and actions because he is rich, a poor man should not resort to committing evil deeds due to his poverty. In either case, one should keep to one's place in society and be a virtuous person. The actions of worldly people usually follow their thoughts. Whatever has to be thought is not considered natural. Accomplish the state of no thought by reciting the Junti mantra continuously to overcome scattered thoughts in the mind. And when you recite, you must not think of reciting, but recite consciously and diligently without any attachment. When the reciting becomes second nature to you, it will be efficacious.
My name used to be Xue Hai, which meant broad learning. But after having understood the fact that destiny is created by ourselves, I changed it to Liao Fan, which means transcending the mundane, because I did not wish to be like worldly people who allow destiny to control them.
Oh, I see.
From then on, I began to be constantly aware of my thoughts and actions. Soon I felt quite different from before. I became respectful, careful, and conservative in my thoughts, speech, and actions. I maintain this attitude even when I'm alone, for I know that there are spirits and gods everywhere who can see my every action and thought. Even when I encounter people who slander me, I can take their insults with a patient and peaceful mind. The year after I met Master Au-Yeung, I took the preliminary imperial exam in which Mr. Kong had predicted I would come in 3rd place. Amazingly, I came in 1st. Mr. Kong's predictions were beginning to lose their accuracy. But I did. Master Au-Yeung had said that destiny could be changed, and now I believe it more than ever. Although I had corrected a lot of my faults, I found that I could not wholeheartedly do the things I ought to do. Even if I did, it was forced and unnatural. I reflected within and found that there were still many things wrong in not being eager enough to do it, or harboring doubts when helping others in need. Sometimes I forced myself to act kindly, but my speech was still untamed and offensive. I found that I could contain myself when sober, but after a few drinks, I would lose self-discipline and act without restraint. Although I often practiced kind deeds and accumulated merits, my good deeds were offset by my faults and offenses. A lot of my time was spent vainly and without value. It took me more than 10 years to complete the 3,000 meritorious deeds I had vowed to do. I was unable to dedicate the merits from these 3,000 kind deeds at a temple until I returned to my hometown a few years later. Then I made my second wish, and that was for a son. I vowed to complete another 3,000 good deeds. 1 year later, you were born. Every time I performed a kind deed, I would record it in a book. Your mother, who could not write, would use a goose feather dipped in ink and make a red circle on the calendar for every kind deed she did. Sometimes she gave food to the poor or bought living creatures from the marketplace to free them in the wild. She recorded all these with her circles on the calendar. At times she performed more than 10 kind deeds in a single day. We continued to perform and accumulate kind deeds in this manner, and in a mere 2 years, the 3,000 deeds were completed. Once again, I made another wish in the temple, and that was to pass the next level in the imperial examination, the Jinshe level. I also vowed to complete 10,000 meritorious deeds. After 3 years, I attained my wish and passed the Jinshe level. I was made the district officer of Baodi County. While in the office, I prepared a small booklet to record my merits and faults and called it the Book of Disciplining the Mind. I told the door guard to place the booklet on my desk every morning. From that day, I recorded all my good and bad deeds in that booklet. Every evening, I would burn incense and make a report of my deeds to the heavens at a little altar in the garden. Once, your mother was concerned when she saw that I had not accumulated many merits. And she asked, "In the past, I was able to help you in your accumulation of kind deeds, and we were able to complete the 3,000 meritorious deeds. Now you have made a vow to complete 10,000 kind deeds, and there are fewer opportunities to practice them here at the government residence. How long will it be before your vow can be fulfilled?" That night, after your mother spoke the words, I had a dream.
Liao Fan Yuan.
My heavenly lord.
Why are you unable to sleep?
My lord, this is because I have made a vow to complete 10,000 meritorious deeds, but to date I have not achieved good results. I'm afraid this vow will never be achieved during my living time.
When you became the district officer, you reduced the taxes on the rice fields. That was a great kind deed, and that deed itself was worth 10,000 merits. Your vow is already fulfilled.
As it turned out, the farmers in Baudi County had to pay a very high tax, and when I came to office, I reduced the taxes on the rice fields by nearly half. But I still held doubts and wondered how a single deed could be worth 10,000 merits. Coincidentally, the Zen master Au-Yeung was traveling from the 5 plateau mountains of Shanxi province and stopped in Baodi. I invited him over and told him of my dream and asked whether it was believable. Master Au-Yeung said, when doing kind deeds, one must be true and sincere and not seek any rewards or act with falsity. If one does a kind deed with such a true and sincere heart, then one deed can be worth the merit from 10,000 kind deeds. Besides, your act of reducing the taxes in this county benefits more than 10,000 people. You have relieved the suffering of heavy taxes on all these farmers. Upon hearing his words, I gave a month's salary for him to take back and use the money to offer food for 10,000 monks and dedicate the merits for me.
Father, what happened after that?
Mr. Kong had predicted that I would die at the age of 53. However, I survived that year with no illnesses, though I did not ask the heavens for a longer life. Now I am 69 already. In Buddhist teachings, it is written, "The way of the heavens is undetermined, and neither is one's destiny." It is also said, "Destiny is not set, but is only created and determined by oneself." These are all true, and I have come to understand that both fortune and adversity are all the results of one's own doing. Destiny is not something fixed, but can be changed.
Father, I wonder how my life will be.
This is not important. In any case of destiny, we should always prepare for the worst. Therefore, even in times of prosperity, you must act as if you were not. And when things are going your way, you must be mindful of adversity. When you are wealthy, be mindful of poverty. And when loved and respected by all, you must remain careful and conservative. When the family is greatly respected and revered, you must carry yourself humbly. And when your learning is broad and deep, you must not display it, but keep it humbly within. These 6 ways of contemplation just mentioned by me are a means to tackle the problem from its opposite side. If one can thus cultivate the mind, then virtue and morality will grow and fortune will increase on its own. There are many intelligent people in the world who refuse to cultivate morality and virtue and cannot put forth diligent effort in their work. Their failures later in life are owed to a single word: laziness. In short, The teachings of Master Yungu are truly the most worthy, profound, real and proper teachings. And I hope that you will study them closely and practice them with all your effort. You must use your time wisely and not let it slip by in vain. Do you understand?
I know, Father. Thank you for your teaching.
How can we be free from faults when we were not born as saints or sages? Confucius once said, "One with faults should not fear to correct them." As such, when we have made a mistake, don't be afraid to correct it. During the spring-autumn period, many prestigious advisors and counselors of nations were able to accurately predict whether a person's future would be good, bad, disastrous or fortunate based on their observations of that person's speech and behavior. These can be seen recorded in several history books.
What methods did they use to make predictions?
Usually there are signs which signal impending danger or of coming good fortune. These signs are a reflection of one's heart. Though it isn't the heart from which thoughts arise, the body and its limbs can fully portray a person's character. For instance, if a person is kind-hearted, then his or her every gesture will indicate steadiness and stolidity. If this behavior portrays kindness, then you will know for sure in advance that his good fortune is not far behind. On the contrary, when we see unkind behavior from a person, we will know that troubles await him or her.
Then how do we make corrections?
There are 3 ways to reform one's faults. First, one must feel shame. As the saying goes, one who knows shame is not far from being a courageous person. Think of all the ancient saints and sages whose names and teachings have lasted through hundreds of generations. They were the people just like us. But why is my name tarnished and my reputation ruined in just one lifetime? I find that it is because I overindulge myself in material pleasures and have been badly influenced by the polluted environment. I also secretly do many things I am not supposed to do and think others won't know about it. Sometimes I disregard the nation's laws and am not ashamed of it. Without realizing it, I stoop lower each day until I am no different from an animal. There is nothing else in the world which calls for more shame and remorse than these behaviors. Mencius once said, "Shame is the greatest and most important word in a person's lifetime." Why? Because one who knows shame will put forth his best effort in reforming faults and will eventually attain sagehood or become a saint. The second way to reform is that one must know fear. What are we to fear? We must know that the heaven, earth, spirits and gods all hover over our heads in observation. They are different from man in that they can see everything without obstruction. Therefore, it is not easy to deceive them. If my offense is serious, then all kinds of disasters will befall me. If the fault is minor, it will still deduct from my current fortune. How can I not feel fear? Therefore, we must fear the spirits and gods every moment. Even I'm in an empty room, the spirits and gods watch over me very carefully and records everything. We can try covering up our evil doings from others, but the spirits and gods can see through to our hearts and know our every action. Ultimately, we cannot deceive ourselves. We would feel embarrassed and dishonored if others happened to see our misdeeds. Therefore, how can we not be constantly cautious of our every action and be fearful of the consequences they might evoke? But there is more to it. As long as a person still has one breath left, then he has the chance to repent of the most serious mistakes and offenses. If a person can have an overwhelming and courageous kind thought at the most important moment, then it can cleanse away hundreds of years of accumulated sins. This is just like how only one lamp is necessary to bring light into a valley that has been dark for 1,000 years. Sit. Besides, we are living in a tumultuous and constantly changing world. Our body, being made of flesh and blood, is extremely perishable. If our next breath does not come, then this body will no longer be part of us. By then, even if we did want to reform, we would not have the chance to do so. Therefore, when you commit evil, your retribution in the physical world is a bad reputation and name which will last for hundreds and thousands of years. Even filial children and loving grandchildren cannot cleanse your name for you. Whereas in your afterlife, you might end up in hell suffering immeasurable pain. Even Buddhas and Bodhisattvas cannot save you. So how can one not be fearful?
Father, is there any other way?
Yes, there is. The third way is one must have determination and courage. A person who hesitates to reform his faults is one who really does not want to change, but is content with what he can get away with. His willpower may not be strong enough, making him afraid to change his wrongdoings. A minor fault is like a thorn sticking into our flesh and should be quickly removed. A big fault is like a finger bitten by a poisonous snake. We must cut off that finger without hesitation to prevent the poison from spreading and taking our life. There are also 3 methods of practice in helping us reform. First is changing through action, second is changing through reasoning, and third is changing from the heart. Since the methods vary, so do the results of change. For example, if I killed living beings in the past, I now vow not to kill again starting today. If I was angry and yelled at others in the past, I vow not to get angry starting today. This is how a person changes through action. However, this is merely suppressing yourself not to do something, and it is difficult to achieve the objective of getting rid of your faults permanently. A more ideal method is changing through reasoning. In the case of killing animals, one can think thus: loving all living things is a virtue of heaven. All living things love life and are afraid to die. How can I be at peace with myself by taking another's life to nurture my own? We should know that the way to healthiness lies in the utilization of our energy and not delicacies. We can be nourished just as well by consuming vegetarian food. Why let your stomach become a graveyard? If you think about it, you will naturally feel sorry for these animals and be unable to swallow their flesh. The same holds true for changing one's bad temper. One should think of the fact that everyone is not the same and has his or her individual strengths and weaknesses. And as such, we should understand and accommodate one another. If someone offends me for no reason at all, then it is his problem, and that has nothing to do with me. There is no reason for me to get angry. Therefore, no benefit, but rather harm is derived from killing animals and getting angry. There are other faults and offenses we can change along the same lines. If we can understand the reasoning behind the need to reform, we will not make the same mistake twice. Though a person's fault can amount to thousands of different types, they all stem from thoughts of the mind. Tianqi, come here. If your heart is rooted in vices such as desire, fame, profits, or anger, you don't have to find ways to get rid of each fault. All you need is a sincere, kind heart and the willingness to practice kind deeds. As long as your heart is virtuous and kind, then naturally your mind will not generate any improper thoughts. All mistakes stem from the heart. Therefore, one should change from the heart. Do you understand?
Yes, I do.
If we are willing to cultivate our hearts, then it is possible to purify our thoughts right away. And this is because wrongdoings originate from the heart. Purifying the heart can erase all improper and bad thoughts before they are carried out in action. The best way is by cultivating the heart and understanding the reason behind the need to change. The alternative way is forcing ourselves not to commit the wrongdoing again. Sometimes all three methods have to be used to succeed at reforming a fault. The Book of Change stated, families who perform kind deeds will accumulate fortune which can outlast many generations. Therefore, in order to change a bad life into a good life, we not only have to reform our faults, but also have to practice all forms of kindness and build upon our virtue. Only in this way can we rid ourselves of the karma created in the past. Once our kind practices accumulate, our bad life will naturally turn into a good life. Thus, the practice of changing destiny can be proven. So says a proverb, a sense of pity is present in everybody's heart. Zicheng Yang from Zhejiang province is another example. Zicheng worked as a member of the clerical staff of the county courthouse. He was a kind, humane, and law-abiding man. Once, the county magistrate punished a criminal by beating him until he fell, and his blood spilled out onto the ground. Beat him!
I've been wrong, Your Honor. I've been wrong.
Beat him again!
Please. I've been wrong, Your Honor. I didn't do it.
Beat!
I've been wrong, Your Honor.
You cunning fellow! Very daring! Beat him!
I've been wrong, Your Honor. I didn't do it.
Beat him again! Beat him again! Beat him! Beat!
Your Honor, please remain calm. Please stop beating him.
It's all right for you to plead. But how can I not be angry when this person has broken the law?
Your Honor, when even those in government positions of prestige and power are corrupted and do not follow the righteous path, how can one expect the common people to abide by the laws? Thus, in a case like this, we should be more understanding.
Although Zicheng came from a very poor family, he never took any bribes. If the prisoners were short of food, he would always take food from his own home, even if it meant going hungry himself. This practice of compassion never ceased, and eventually Zicheng had two sons who both became very prominent and held important government positions. Even the descendants of the Yang family remained prominent for a long time as well. So says a proverb, loving all living things is a virtue of heaven. Here is another true story that happened during the Ming Dynasty. Once an organization of bandits appeared in Fujian province. The emperor appointed General Xie to lead the imperial army to pacify them. General Xie wanted to make sure that the innocent people were not accidentally killed in the hunt for bandits. So he managed to obtain a list of those who belonged to the organization and commanded that a white flag be given secretly to those who did not belong to the bandits. They were told to place the flag on their door when the imperial army came to town, and the soldiers were ordered not to harm the innocent. With this one thought of kindness, General Xie saved nearly 10,000 people from being killed. Later, his son placed first on the imperial exams, and he later became the Prime Minister. His grandson also placed highly on the exams. His whole family thus attained high positions and great wealth. Another legend happened to the Lin family from Putian County in Fujian province.
Take this one outside. Hi. Don't worry, everybody. Everybody, you will get a share. Don't worry. Everybody will get a share. Don't scramble.
This one for
here.
you.
This one for you.
Over
yeah,
here.
take
some.
carefully.
Yes, this
Don't
one for
drop
you.
it.
Yes.
Yeah. Hold properly.
Don't drop it.
Don't drop it.
Take some for
Yeah.
yourself. Come again
Yes.
next time.
All right.
Take over. Yes. Take some.
Okay.
Yes.
Take
Goodbye.
carefully. Yeah, this one for you.
This is for you.
Yeah. And this one for you. Take another one. Come.
Among their ancestors was an old lady who was very generous. Every day, rain or shine, she would make steamed buns to be given to the poor. There was a Taoist priest who came every day for 3 years, and each time would ask for 6 or 7 steamed buns. The old lady always granted his request, and she never expressed any displeasure.
Don't scramble. All of you will have your share. Come.
Madam Lin?
You are...
I have eaten your steamed buns for 3 years. Perhaps I can show my gratitude this way. On the land behind your house, there is a good place to build the ancestral grave. And if you're placed there in the future, the number of your descendants who will have imperial appointments will equal the number of seeds in a litter of sesame seeds.
Really? Oh, thank you for your kind guidance.
Don't mention. Since you're sincere in helping people, you should receive good retribution.
That's a blessing.
When the old lady passed away, the Lin family followed the Taoist's suggestion and buried her at the designated place. The first generation after that, 9 men received imperial appointments. From here we can see that one's charitable deeds and accumulated merits will really benefit one's descendants. A proverb says, "One who is pure-hearted will be respected by both gods and ghosts." There was an imperial secretary from Taizhou by the name of Au-Yeung. When he was young, he used to study in remote mountain areas, and he had the following encounter.
Here's the opportunity. There's a village woman whose husband left home a long time ago and has not returned. Her in-laws think that their son is dead and are forcing her to remarry. But she is defying their order because she wants to preserve her chastity.
That's right. Tomorrow night she's going to commit suicide by hanging herself here. And will replace me so that I can be reborn again.
Congratulations! Tonight let me celebrate with you first.
No. I must try to save the woman.
In order to save the woman, Mr. Ying immediately set out to sell his parcel of land on the following day. He obtained 4 liangs of silver and made up a letter from the daughter-in-law's husband and sent it to her home along with the silver. The parents-in-law, they noticed that the letter was not in their son's handwriting. But upon examining the silver, they found that the silver was indeed genuine. And as such, they did not insist on forcing their daughter-in-law to remarry. Therefore, the daughter-in-law did not commit suicide, and her husband returned home eventually, and it was a happy union.
Well done! Mr. Ying not only saved the woman, but also her marriage. It's really a good deal.
Later, Mr. Ying heard the ghosts speaking to each other again.
Originally, I was able to leave this place for rebirth, but my chance got messed up by Mr. Ying.
Why don't you inflict some harm on him?
No, I can't. His goodness and virtue has been recognized by the Supreme God, and he's going to receive a prominent position in the future. How can I harm him?
After hearing this, Mr. Ying became even more diligent in practicing kindness and accumulating merit. Whenever there was a famine, he would use his own money to buy food for the poor and the needy, and he was always eager to help those in emergencies. When things did not go his way, he always reflected within himself rather than complain of the outside world. Even today, his descendants are still very prominent. Another example is Kong Si Tu, who lived in Jiaxing County, Zhejiang Province. Another example of attaining good outcomes from practicing kindness is someone who is a distant family of our Yuan clan.
Is it so? Who is he then?
He is Ping Bao, who lived in Jiaxing. Ping was the youngest of the 7 sons of the magistrate of Qizhou, Anhui Province. He was sought into marriage by the Yuan family at Pinghu County. Ping Bao was very knowledgeable and talented, but he was never able to pass the exams. Once, while traveling on one of his many journeys to Lake Liu, he was caught in very heavy rain.
Here you are, Master.
against the bow.
Abbot, I don't have the heart to allow the statue of Guanyin Bodhisattva to be defaced by the rain and dust. Could you use these 10 liangs of silver to have the temple repaired?
Oh, I'm sorry. Repairing the temple involves a big project, and your silver is insufficient for this purpose, so I'm afraid that it is very difficult to fulfill your wish.
Master, don't give any more. This is a whole family belongings.
As long as the statue of Guanyin Bodhisattva remains undamaged, I don't care if I have to go without clothes. Abbot, please take my humble offering.
Amitabha, to give up money and clothing isn't a difficult deed to accomplish, but your deep sincerity is truly rare and precious to encounter. Amitabha,
please don't mention it. I have to make a move now. Thank you.
After the temple was repaired, Ping Bao led his father over to visit and spend the night there as well. That night, Ping dreamed of the Dharma protector of the temple who had come to thank him, saying to him that since he had accumulated these merits and virtues, his children and descendants would enjoy having imperial appointments for generations. Later on, his son and grandson both passed high examinations and were appointed as senior imperial officers. TNT, there is real goodness and false goodness. Honest goodness and crooked goodness, hidden goodness and visible goodness, seeming goodness and unseeming goodness, improper goodness and proper goodness, half goodness and full goodness, big goodness and small goodness, and finally, difficult goodness and easy goodness. These different types of goodness each have their own reason, which should be carefully learned and understood. If we practice kind deeds, but do not learn the way to differentiate between right and wrong, we may end up doing harm instead of good. Now, I will explain the different types of goodness one by one. Once upon a time in the Yuan dynasty, a group of scholars went to pay homage to eminent monk master Zhong Feng, who was advisor to the emperor on Tianmu Mountain.
Master, Buddhist teachings often speak of the retributions for good and evil. They say it's like the shadow following the body wherever it goes. This is saying that doing good will always have its rewards, and doing evil will always have its punishments. Then why is it that there are people who practice kind deeds, but their families and descendants are not prosperous and successful? On the other hand, there are evil and wicked people who do bad things, but their families and descendants do quite well. Is there no fairness in Buddha's teachings?
Ordinary people are blinded by worldly views. They have not cleansed their minds of impurities and cannot see with true perception. Therefore, they look upon true goodness as evil and mistaken true evil as goodness. This is very common nowadays. Furthermore, these people do not blame themselves for bad perception on their part, but instead blame the heavens for their misfortunes.
Master, Goodness is goodness, and evil is evil. How can they be mistaken for each other?
Could each of you express your opinions on what is good and what is evil?
Master, to yell at and beat others is evil. To respect and treat others well is good.
Well, not necessarily.
Being greedy for wealth and taking another's money is evil. Not being greedy and abiding by proper way is good.
Not necessarily.
So, what is really considered good and what is really considered evil?
To do things with the intention of bringing benefit to others is good. To do things for the sake of oneself is evil. If what you do is for the sake of benefiting another, then it does not matter if you yell at him or beat him. That is still considered good. If your intention is for self-benefit, then, regardless of your appearance of respect and courtesy, it is still considered evil. Therefore, when one practices kind deeds with the sole intention of benefiting others, this is considered as benefiting the public. And if it's public, then it is real goodness. If you only think for yourself when doing kind acts, then what is considered private benefit, and that is false goodness. When kindness springs from within the heart, it is real goodness. When one does good just for the sake of doing a good deed, then it is false. Also, when one does good without expecting anything in return, it is considered real goodness. When one practices kind deeds for some other purpose than to benefit others, it is false. These differences should all be scrutinized by those who wish to practice true kindness.
What is honest goodness and crooked goodness?
People nowadays often look upon a conservative and nice person as a good and kind person. However, the ancient sages and saints have shown that they prefer those who are courageous and hold high goals for themselves. Those who appear to be conservative and careful in their everyday actions may be liked by all people, but because of their weak personality, they easily go along with everything, and they are unable to think for themselves. From this, we can see that the viewpoint of common folk greatly differs from that of the sages, whose view is similar to that of the heaven, earth, gods, and spirits. Therefore, those who wish to accumulate merit should practice with a true and humble heart, not for the purpose of pleasing others. Honest goodness comes from the thought to help all others, and crooked goodness arises from the thought of greed in wishing only to please people. Therefore, if you wish to help all people, that is honest goodness. But if it is because of greed you please people, it is crooked goodness.
Father, what is hidden goodness and visible goodness?
When one does something good and people know about it, it is called visible goodness. When one does something good and no one knows about it, it is called hidden virtue. Those with hidden virtues will naturally be known by the heavens and will be rewarded. Those who practice visible goodness are known by people and they enjoy fame. Fame itself is a fortune, but fame is not favored by heaven and earth. For heaven and earth do not like those who seek fame. We can see that those who have great fame but lack the virtues supporting it, they will eventually encounter some kind of unthinkable adversity. A person who truly has not done any wrong, but continues to be falsely accused by others, will have descendants who will suddenly become very prosperous and very, very successful.
But then, why is there a saying that what seems to be goodness, but is actually not?
In the spring-autumn period, there was a country named Lu, because there were other countries which took their citizens as slaves. The country of Lu made a law which rewarded those who paid the ransom to regain the freedom of their fellow citizens. At that time, Confucius had a student named Zigong, who did not accept the reward, although he paid for the ransom to free his people. But when Confucius heard this, he scolded Zigong, saying, "You have acted wrongly in this matter. When saints and sages undertake anything, they strive to improve the social behavior, teaching people to be good and decent. One should not do something just because one feels like it in order to gain vanity fame." On hearing this, Zigong became puzzled and looked at Confucius with a frown. Confucius then explained to him, saying, "In the country of Lu, the poor outnumber the wealthy. By refusing the reward, you lead others to think that accepting the reward money is being greedy. Thus, all the poor people who do not wish to appear greedy will hesitate to pay ransom in the future. Only very rich people will have a chance to practice this deed. If this happens, no one will pay ransom to free our people again." Another student of Confucius, Zilu, once saw a man drowning in the river, and he went forth to rescue him. Later, the man thanked him by giving him a cow as a token of gratitude. Zilu accepted his gift. Confucius was happy when he heard this and said, "In the future, people will be willing and eager to help those who are drowning in deep waters or river." If we look at these two examples from the view of common people, Zigong, who did not accept the reward money, was good, and Zilu, who accepted the cow, was not as good. Who would have known that Confucius praised Zilu instead and scolded Zigong? From this we can see that those who practiced kind deeds must not only look at the present outcome, but should also consider effects of the act in the long run. One should not only consider one's own gain and losses, but should look to see the impact made on the public. What we do right now may be good, but with passing years it may inflict harm upon others. Therefore, what seems like goodness may in fact be the opposite, and what appears to be the opposite of goodness may someday turn out to be goodness done after all.
Father, what is improper goodness and proper goodness?
In the Ming dynasty, there was once a prime minister named Wen Yi-liu, who, when growing old, retired to his hometown, where he was loved and respected by all. Once, a drunken villager proceeded to insult him. Mr. Liu thought that since he was drunk, he would not want to bother about the latter. A year later, the same man committed a grave crime and was sent to jail with the death sentence. Upon hearing this, Mr. Liu said with great remorse, "If I had taken him to the authorities for punishment that day when he came to insult me, perhaps this would not have happened. A little discipline then could have prevented the great harm done now and might have saved him from certain death." This is an example of doing something bad while having good intentions. There is also an example of those who did good when they in fact intended otherwise. Once a famine ravished the land, and people stole food from others in broad daylight. A rich family reported their stolen losses from the marketplace to the authorities, but the government did not want to get involved and did nothing to stop the people. Eventually, the people grew more daring and chaos was imminent. So the rich took the law into their own hands and proceeded to catch and punish those who stole from them. In this way, peace returned to the land and the people stole no more from one another. It was with selfish intentions that the rich family acted, but the result of their deeds actually did everyone a great benefit. For we all know that goodness is proper and evil is improper. But remember that there are cases where deeds done out of good intentions result in evil, and deeds done with evil intentions result in good.
Father, what is half goodness and full goodness?
In the I Ching it is said, when a person does not accumulate kind deeds, he or she will not attain good fortune. When one does not accumulate evil deeds, he or she will not bring about great adversity. If we are diligent in doing kind deeds, it is like collecting things in a container, and with diligence it will soon be full. If we are somewhat lazy in our collecting, then the container will be half filled. This is one explanation of half goodness and full goodness. Once upon a time, there was a poor lady. This lady went to visit a Buddhist temple and wished to make a donation. However, she was so poor that she had only 2 cents, so she gave these to the monk. To her surprise, the temple's abbot himself came forth to help her repent for past offenses and dedicate her merits in front of the Buddha. The lady was very touched by his move. Later on, the same lady was chosen to enter the imperial palace, and she became a concubine to the emperor. Clad in her riches, the lady once again went to the temple to donate, this time bringing thousands of silver pieces to give. To her dismay, the abbot only sent his disciple to help her dedicate her merits. The lady did not understand, and so she questioned the abbot.
Master, in the past, I only gave 2 cents in donation, and you helped me repent. Today, I donate in great sum, and you will not help me perform my dedication.
Amitabha, the money you gave in the past was scant. It came from a true and sincere heart, and it was necessary for me to repay your sincerity by personally performing your dedications. Today, although your donation is much more, the heart of giving is not quite as true and sincere as before. Thus, it is enough that my disciple performs your dedications for you.
This is an example of how thousands of silver pieces are only considered as half goodness and 2 cents as full. Do you understand? Another example is of Au-Yeung, an immortal of the Han dynasty. He was teaching his student Dong Bing Liu the art of transforming iron into gold. They would use this gold to help the poor. Dong Bing asked his teacher, "Will the gold ever change back to iron again?" Au-Yeung then answered him saying, "After 500 years it will return to its original form." Dong Bing then shook his head saying, "In this case I don't want to learn this art. It will harm those who possess the gold 500 years from now." Au-Yeung then smiled and said, "To become an immortal, one must complete 3,000 virtuous deeds. What you have just said came from a truly kind heart. Your 3,000 deeds are fulfilled." When we perform a kind deed, it is best if we can do it out of our innermost sincerity. not seeking rewards or noting in our minds how much we have done. If we practice thus, then all our good deeds will reach fulfillment and success. If instead we always think of the deeds we have performed, looking for a reward of some kind, then no matter how diligently we practice in an entire lifetime, the deeds will still be considered half goodness. For example, when we donate money to the poor, we can practice what is called pure donation. In this type of giving, we do not linger on the thought of I, who is giving, or dwell on the importance of the object I am giving away, or think of who the receiver is. We are simply giving, and it is out of true sincerity and respect. When we give with pure donation, then 1 dew of rice can bring boundless fortune, and the merit from giving 1 cent can wipe away the transgressions of 1,000 eons. If we always keep in mind the good we have done and expect rewards for our actions, then even a donation of thousands of liang of gold would still be considered half goodness.
In that case, how can we define big goodness and small goodness?
Once there was a high-ranking official named Jung Da-Wei, who was led into the spirit world to be judged for his good and bad deeds.
Don't be alarmed. I have summoned you to the spirit world to let you know about your past good deeds. Can the judge bring out his records of good and evil deeds?
Yes, Your Majesty.
Your Majesty, I'm younger than 40 years of age. How could I have attained such a bad record?
When you have a single thought that is improper, it is considered a bad offense there and then. It does not have to be carried out through action to be counted as wrong. For example, when you see a pretty lady and give rise to improper thoughts, that is an offense. Weigh his scroll of good and evil deeds.
Yes, Your Majesty. Your Majesty, his scroll of good deeds is heavier than that of his evil deeds.
Surprise that my scroll of good deeds is heavier than that of my evil deeds. I can't really recall what major good deeds I've done.
Have you really forgotten about it? Once the Emperor planned to build a great stone bridge. You opposed the project due to the hardship it would cause the thousands of people needed for the work. Well, this is a copy of your proposal to the Emperor.
I did make that proposal, but the Emperor dismissed it. How can it bear so much weight against my numerous offenses?
Although the Emperor did not take your suggestion, that 1 thought of kindness you bore for the tens and thousands of people was very great. If the Emperor had listened to you, then the good performed would be even greater. Take him away.
Yes, Your Majesty.
Therefore, when one is determined to do good for the benefit of all people, then a small deed can reap great merits. If one thinks only about benefiting oneself, then even if many deeds of kindness are performed, the merit would still be small. What is difficult and easy goodness? The knowledgeable scholars of the past used to say, when one wishes to conquer one's greed and desires, one should start with the most difficult to overcome. We should practice like the old teacher Mr. Su of Jiangxi, who gave 2 years' worth of salary to a poor man to pay for the fine to the government. Thus he saved the man and his wife from being torn apart, should the husband be taken to prison. Another example is Mr. Zhang from Hebei, who saw an extremely poor man who had to mortgage his wife and child and had no money for their redemption. If he was unable to pay for their return, the mother and child could both lose their lives. Yet another example is Mr. Jin from Chenqiang, Jiangsu province. He was old and without any sons, so his neighbor offered their young daughter in marriage to him to give him descendants to carry on his lineage. But Mr. Jin could not bear to ruin the otherwise bright and long future of this young girl, and so refused the offer and sent her back home. This is another example of being able to overcome what is most difficult to conquer in oneself. Therefore, the heavens showered down fortune, which was especially good for these 3 old men. It is easier to accumulate merit and virtue for those who have money and power than for those who are poor. But if one refuses to cultivate kindness, even when it is easy and one has the chance to do so, then it would truly be a shame. For those who are poor and without prestige, doing kind things for others is a great difficulty. But if in this difficulty one can still manage to help others, then it is a great virtue, and the merits gained would be boundless. In being a moral person and dealing with affairs, we should help others whenever the opportunity presents itself. You should know that helping others is not such an easy task, and that there are many ways to do it. In short, the ways of helping others can be simplified into 10 important categories.
Father, what are these 10 categories?
Go and get ready the brush and ink before you take them down.
Well, I'm ready, Father.
All right. The first is supporting the practice of kindness. When we see the people trying to do a little kindness, we should assist them in their deeds and help their kindness grow. When we see others who wish to do good but cannot accomplish it on their own, we should lend a hand and help them succeed. This is the way we can cultivate supporting the practice of kindness. The second category is harboring love and respect. We should harbor respect towards those who are more knowledgeable, older, or of higher status than we are. For those who are younger, less fortunate, or of lower status, we should harbor a mind of loving care. The third category is helping others succeed. When we see a person who is considering whether or not to do a good deed, we should persuade him to put all his efforts into doing it. When others meet with difficulties in practicing kindness, we should help think of ways to overcome the difficulty and guide them to success. We must not be jealous at the accomplishments of others, nor try to sabotage their good acts. The fourth category is persuading others to practice kindness. When we meet a person who is doing evil, we should tell him that doing evil will only result in great suffering and painful retribution, and that he must avoid doing evil at all costs. We should tell people who refuse to practice kindness or are only willing to practice a little kindness that doing kind deeds will definitely have its rewards, and that kindness not only has to be cultivated, but must be cultivated constantly and on a large scale. The fifth category is helping those in desperate need. Most people tend to give when there is no need to give, and refuse to give when there is really a need. When we meet people who are in great difficulties, emergencies, or dangers, we should lend them a hand and help in whatever way we can to bring them out of their difficult times. The merits accrued from helping others in times of desperate needs are boundless indeed. However, one should not become proud and conceited for doing such deeds. The sixth category is developing public projects for the greater benefit of the people. Projects which will bring great benefit to the public usually have to be performed by those with great influence and power. If a person has this capacity, such as rebuilding the water system or assisting a disaster area, then he ought to do it for the benefit of the general public. The seventh category is giving through donation. People of this world love, seek, and even die for money. Who is actually willing to help others by giving their own money away? When we recognize the difficulty involved in donation, we can come to appreciate the rarity of the man who is willing to give for the purpose of helping others in need. He is an even greater man in the eyes of the poor. The eighth category is protecting the proper teachings. This is referring to the teachings of different religions. We must be able to differentiate between proper religions and deviant religions. Teachings with proper wisdom and views, such as that of Buddhism, which promotes kindness and goodness in society, should be supported. If one happens to see others in the act of destroying such proper teachings, one must put forth a complete effort to protect and uphold these teachings. The ninth category is respecting our elders. Anyone who is deeply learned, knowledgeable, has high prestige, or is older than us is considered to be an elder and should be highly regarded and respected. The 10th category is loving and cherishing all living things. We should feel sympathy for all living creatures, even the tiny ants, which know of suffering and are afraid to die. How can we kill and eat beings and not feel the least sorry? There are countless good deeds which I am unable to mention here one by one. Let it be sufficient for me to say that you will be able to accumulate many merits if you deliberate on the above 10 categories of helping others. It was stated, the law of heaven takes from those who are arrogant and benefits those who are humble. The same holds true in the law of earth. The humble shall be replenished just as flowing water filling up lower places on the ground as it passes by to make up the differences. The law of spirits and gods bring harm to those who are arrogant and fortune to those who are humble. Even the laws of men despise the arrogant and love the humble. Therefore, heaven, the earth, the spirits, gods, and people, they all prefer humility over arrogance. The Chinese Book of History has also said, a person's arrogance will bring him harm, and his humbleness will bring him benefit. I often went to take exams accompanied by others, and every time I would meet scholars who were very poor. I noticed that before they succeeded in passing the exams and became prosperous, their faces showed such humility, peace, and harmony that I felt I could almost hold that quality in my hands. Several years ago, I took my imperial exam in Peking. Among the 10 applicants from my village, Au-Yeung was the youngest and extremely humble. I told one of the applicants that this young man would definitely pass the exam this year. He then asked me how I could tell. I said that only those who are humble were qualified to receive fortune. Sure enough, when the test results came out, Au-Yeung passed the exam. Kai Chi-feng from Chikiang, Kuang Yuanzhao, and Jian Shuhia from Shantung only managed to pass their imperial exams after they carried themselves in a humble way, which was an immense change from their proud and arrogant ways in the past when they failed in their exams several times in succession. However, there was a scholar named Au-Yeung Chang from Jiangyin who was very learned and wrote good essays. He was very well known among many scholars. One year he took his exam, and when the test results were posted, he found that he had not passed the exam.
Hey, you!
The examiner must be blind. I am so talented, and am a master in writing poems and essays. How could he have failed me? This is such an injustice. What are you laughing at?
I'm laughing at your ignorance. The apparent reason for your failure in exam is that your essay must not be good.
How do you know it's not good when you haven't even read it?
The most important element in writing good essays is peace and harmony. Your angry accusation just now clearly shows that your mind is not at peace and your temperament is violent. How could you possibly write good essays?
What should I do?
Whether you pass or not depends on your fate. If you're destined not to pass, then no matter how good your paper is, you will still fail the exam. You yourself will have to make a few changes.
How can I change it if it's predestined?
Through the power to form your destiny lies in the heavens. The right to recreate it is in yourself. As long as you're willing to do kind deeds and cultivate hidden virtues, there is nothing you ask that you will not receive.
I'm only a poor scholar. What good deeds can I possibly do?
Practicing kind deeds and accumulating hidden virtues all stem from the heart. As long as you constantly harbor the intent to practice kindness and accumulate virtues, your merits are infinite and boundless. Take the virtue of humility, for example. It does not cost anything. Why can't you be humble and reflect on your own essay instead of blaming the examiner for being unfair?
Au-Yeung Chang listened to the Taoist monk, and from then on suppressed his arrogant ways. He became very mindful of his own actions and tried not to make mistakes. Every day he put forth additional effort to do more good deeds and accumulate more merits. 3 years later, he dreamed one night that he entered a very tall house and saw a booklet that contained all the names of the candidates who passed the exam that year. He saw many blank lines. Unable to understand what it meant, he asked the person next to him, "What is this?" The person replied, "This is the booklet that contains all the names of the candidates who passed the exam this year." Au-Yeung asked, "Why does it have so many blank lines?" The person answered, "The spirits of the underworld check on the candidates every 3 years. Only the names of those who practice kind deeds and do not make mistakes are allowed to appear in this booklet. The blank lines used to bear the names of those who are supposed to pass the exam, but due to their recent offenses, their names have been erased. If for the past 3 years you have been very careful and have exerted such self-control that you haven't made any mistakes, then you would be able to fill this blank. I hope you will cherish this opportunity and take care not to make any mistakes. Sure enough, Au-Yeung passed the exam that year and placed 105. From the examples given above, we know that spirits and gods are always watching our behavior from above. Therefore, we must immediately do whatever is beneficial to others and avoid doing whatever is violent, dangerous, and harmful to others. These are all things we can decide for ourselves. As long as we harbor good intentions, refrain from evil doings, don't offend the heaven, earth, spirits, and gods, humble ourselves, be tolerant and not arrogant, then the heaven, earth, spirits, and gods will constantly have pity on us. Only then will we have a foundation for our future prosperity. Those who are full of conceit are definitely not destined to be great men. Even if they prosper, they will not be able to enjoy their fortune for long. Intelligent people would definitely not make themselves small and narrow-minded and refuse the fortune they are entitled to. Besides, those who are humble always increase their opportunities to learn. If a person is not humble, who would want to teach him? Also, humble people are always willing to learn the strengths of others. When others perform good deeds, the humble person will learn and follow their examples. In this way, the kind deeds humble people accomplish are boundless. For those who wish to cultivate and improve upon their virtues, they especially cannot do without the virtue of humility. The ancients had an old saying, "Those who have their hearts set on attaining success and fame will surely attain success and fame. Those who have their hearts set on attaining wealth and position will surely attain wealth and position." A person who has great and far-reaching goals is like a tree having roots. A tree with roots will eventually sprout into branches, flowers, and leaves. A person who has set down great and far-reaching goals must humble himself in every thought and try to relieve another's burden, even if the occurrence is as insignificant as a speck of dust. If you can reach this level of humility, you will naturally touch the hearts of heaven and earth. Furthermore, we are the creators of our own prosperity. If we truly want to create it, we certainly will succeed. Look at the candidates who sought for fame and wealth. In the beginning, they did not harbor a sincere heart. It was only a passing notion. When they fancied it, they sought it. When their interest dropped, they stopped. Mencius once told Emperor Xuanqi, "Your Highness has a love for music, but your love for music is only a personal pleasure. If you can expand from the heart which seeks after personal happiness to that of sharing happiness with all your subjects, and make them just as happy as you are, then surely the nation is bound to prosper." I think it is the same for those who are seeking to pass the imperial exams. If a person can expand upon the heart which seeks to pass the exams to that of diligently doing kind deeds and accumulating merits, putting forth his best efforts to improve his character, then both destiny and prosperity are his to create. Tianchi, do you understand now?
Yes, I do, Father.
Liao Fan-Yuan did many kind deeds and accumulated merits throughout his lifetime. He had also written 4 short essays to advise his son. These are none other than Liao Fan's 4 lessons, which have become popular in the world. Liao Fan was a great philanthropist who had changed his destiny through active accumulation of merits. He died at the age of 74, an increase of more than 20 years over his life expectancy. The book Liao Fan's 4 Lessons teaches people how to recognize the truth of destiny, understand the standards of goodness and evil, learn the ways of becoming good people, and the effectiveness of charity and being humble. Mr. Liao Fan-Yuan also spoke through his personal experiences of changing destiny. This book is enlightening and gives us enormous confidence and courage after we've read it. If we can emulate his examples and put them to practice, our educational and professional careers, as well as family life, will be enhanced. It will also be a matter of time before we reach the stage of becoming a sage.